Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to Wednesday Book Haul Edition. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. First, this is my first post-election recording. I have already, earlier this week I will have posted a Veterans Day video. I recorded that before the election. I have yet to record my weekend books because I am wanting to get a little bit further on not this book, not this copy, but this book, Jane Eyre, which I started last night. I want to get a little bit further in that before I do my weekend books. So this is going to post on Wednesday. I am recording this on the first Saturday after the election. And I just drew a blank on some other things that I wanted to say that I didn't write down. Anywho, probably not important. If I remember, I'll bring it up again. So I must have had some sort of premonition because in my video that I recorded and posted, didn't record it on that day, but I posted on election day, I said I was about to get on my feminist shit. So, let's continue. This book haul is brought to you by Jane Austen. And I know that probably people don't think she's a feminist, but we'll get there. I have only read, to my knowledge, one Jane Austen book in my life, and that was in college. My cousins, I think, focused a lot more on Jane Austen. In college, I focused more on American literature and my man, William Shakespeare. I've got a whole video plan for later this year, maybe into the new year, on my friend William. I am counting William in my feminist shit works, and you'll see why. Oops, sorry, shaking the table there. You'll see why. I had a great Shakespeare teacher in college, and she really affected my appreciation of him. But, let's move on. So, the fiction book that I want to focus on right now-ish is Bitches in Bonnets, Life Lessons from Jane Austen's Mean Girls by Sarah J. Mikulski. I've not read this yet. I do intend to read it when I get a chance. But I'm trying to kind of mix things up. Have you ever recognized Mrs. Elton in an office colleague? Or caught a glimpse of Emma Woodhouse in your daughter's clique, whatever. Over 200 years after their creation, Jane Austen's Mean Girls are still alive and kicking. In Bitches in Bonnets, Life Lessons from Jane Austen's Mean Girls, Sarah J. Mikulski explores parallels between Austen's world and our own, showing how modern and behavioral scientists are just beginning to document and quantify what Austen knew instinctively. Are they, though? I don't think so. I think they've been documenting it for a long, long time. Anywho. So, and here's why I say that. Because in the Madwoman in the Attic, the woman writer in the 19th century literary imagination, which is my current nonfiction read, Sandra and Susan are talking quite a bit about Jane Austen, and not just her mean girls, but what the statements her girls and her characters make in her literature. I am still really early in this book. It is like going back to college. It is heavy. I am going to take from this and use this for a reference from this point forward. But this, I thought, would just be a fun read. So this wise and witty book examines how 6 novels of quiet English life, penned by a parochial spinster, still provide insight into female relationships, and how Austen's writing and our reading of it offers comfort to millions of fans worldwide. And there's no doubt that in the cultural milieu, whatever, Austen is prevalent. You see her works redone, rewritten, or homages to her all the time. I am having a problem with my words today. Emma's mentioned in this book. Proto-Karens, it doesn't say all the titles of the books, but anywho, this should be a fun read. I'm not going to take it quite as seriously, though, as I will The Madwoman in the Attic. So, I'm trying to figure out how to talk about the rest of this. So, talking about homages to Jane Austen. I've not watched all the movies. One of my cousins has a favorite versions of, I think, Pride and Prejudice. It's got to be Pride and Prejudice. But I do have a favorite TV series that I think was canceled after one season, which of course it was. And that, I have a copy on video, but I couldn't find it. It's called Lost in Austen. And you can also stream it on Peacock if you have that, Pluto, and Tubi, I believe. It's not available on Amazon, even though Google said it was. I'm going to probably stream that episodes. It's one season, like 4 or 5 episodes. Not really many at all. I'll probably stream that over the next couple of weeks. We got Thanksgiving coming up. I'm going to have a lot of time off. Anywho. So, in preparation for getting back on my feminist shit, I bought the Puffin and Bloom Jane Austen gift set. And this is really pretty. It is for a collector, clearly. So the covers are very pretty, the backs are very pretty, but it doesn't tell you what the books are about. And I've only read one of these 3. This set consists of Emma, Sense and Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice. Right now I'm going to talk about Emma, and you'll see why here in a bit. I've not read Emma at all. No clue what it was about, and so I'm just reading from Amazon. This is probably not the best description. However, it is what it is. A timeless classic. Emma Woodhouse believes herself to be an excellent matchmaker, though she herself does not plan on marrying. But as she meddles in the relationships of others, she causes confusion and misunderstandings throughout the village, and she may just be overlooking a true love of her own. Not a fun fact here, when I when I Amazon searched Emma, apparently it is also the name of a gut health product that relieves gas and bloating, constipation, and leaky gut repair. So that was not what I was looking for when I searched for Emma. Anywho. I don't know when I will get to this. This is not going to be the first Jane Austen that I read. That I read in this section, in this whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm reading Jane Eyre right now. I'm going to read a couple other things after that. Then I will go to Austen. I had hoped to get there by now. However, if you follow me, you know I have been on the struggle bus. October was really rough. I think I've finally broken out of that, and the funny thing is, it took a really bad book and some scandal to get me out of my rut that I was in. There's also some other contributing factors. For what everything else aside, the election is over. I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's done. You know, what's done is done. And then there's another thing, still not ready to talk about, but it's starting to get better. So I'm able to focus more. Anywho. So, next up on Jane Austen. One I have read, apparently, is Sense and Sensibility. This looks like a college copy, and it feels like a college. It almost certainly was a college copy, because I've got underlines in here, not through the end of the book, so I might not have finished the book. But I've got underlines in here and notes, and not things that I necessarily would have underlined, so it looks like somebody was telling me what to underline. notes since at work. So yeah, this is definitely much a college book. I don't even know if did I finish the class? Who knows? Um, Interesting. Maybe I was reading it on my own. Who knows? Anywho, let's talk about Sense and Sensibility. I am never too busy to think of Sense and Sensibility. I can no more forget it than a mother can forget her sucking child. So wrote Jane Austen to her sister in April 1811, while the sheets of the first edition were coming off the press. Disappointed in her first attempt to publish a novel, Jane Austen had turned to a work in which she had started many years earlier, Elinor and Marianne. The story, renamed Sense and Sensibility, was the first of her novels to be published. While the story centers on the personalities of the two sisters, whose contrasting temperaments are examined as they undergo comparable experiences in the loss of the men they love, it rejoices also in a wealth of minor characters such as the comic Mrs. Jennings and Sir John and Lady Middleton, drawn with a consummate satiric skill. I remembered what I wanted to say earlier, but now it's too late to say it right now, so I had to write that down. Anywho. Yeah, this has got to be, because I'm writing, remember T.S.'s sermon? It says the opposite here. Who the hell is T.S.? Is it someone in the book? I would not have written on my own. I'm certain. Anywho. Now we get to the fun part. Although I do have to go back to my phone to talk about Pride and Prejudice, which I've not read to my knowledge. I got a copy here. I don't have another copy, but this is where the fun begins. So Pride and Prejudice. I've watched some of the movies online. I don't think I've ever gotten through one. I know, sacrilege. Though her sisters are keen on finding men to marry, Elizabeth Bennet would rather wait for someone she loves, certainly not someone like Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, whom she finds to be smug and judgmental, in contrast to the charming George Wickham. But soon, Elizabeth learns that her first impressions may not have been correct. The quiet, genteel Mr. Darcy might be her true love after all. I think this is going to be the one that I have to read next because of everything that's going to come after. And gosh, there are so many books to read and so little time. I need to win the lottery and win like millions so I can have more time to read and travel. So, now, like I said, here comes the fun part. I will probably also try to remember which is my cousin's favorite Pride and Prejudice movie, and rewatch that if it's free somewhere. But at some point in the near future, I am going to read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is also a movie, which I have not seen. This is by Jane Austen and Seth Grahame-Smith. This is, like I said, now, a major motion picture. It seems so fun. And let's get to it. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a zombie in possession of brains must be in want of more brains. So begins Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, an expanded edition of the beloved Jane Austen novel, featuring all new scenes of bone-crunching zombie mayhem. As our story opens, a mysterious plague has fallen upon the quiet English village of Meryton. I might read this before Pride and Prejudice. I don't know. And the dead are returning to life. Feisty heroine Elizabeth Bennet is determined to wipe out the zombie menace, but she's soon distracted by the arrival of the haughty and arrogant Mr. Darcy. What ensues is a delightful comedy of manners, with plenty of civilized sparring between the two young lovers, and even more violent sparring on the blood-soaked battlefield. Can Elizabeth vanquish the spawn of Satan and overcome the social prejudices of the class-conscious landed gentry? Complete with romance, heartbreak, sword fights, cannibalism, and thousands of rotting corpses, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies transforms a masterpiece of world literature into something you'd actually want to read. Now, I'll say this. I do intend to give Pride and Prejudice a good chance because I started Jane Eyre with a lot of trepidation. It's classic literature. Of course it's supposed to be hard. But maybe it's because I've been reading The Madwoman in the Attic, which is college level material. So this really is difficult, but Jane Eyre, not so much. So I'm hopeful for Pride and Prejudice. I'm also hopeful for Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. On that same note, I'm looking for places to put things, and I'm not succeeding. On that same note, I found this, and I could not resist it. There are complaints about this book on the internet talking about how, it's basically Pride and Prejudice just set in space. It doesn't offer anything new. But I think that Pride and Prejudice in space does. First of all, gorgeous illustrations in here. Second of all, it's a little bit modern. Third of all, it's in space. How fun. How fun and how modern and how different. Let's see what it's about. So the back blurbs it as a vibrant, exquisitely illustrated reimagining of the classic Jane Austen novel. Elizabeth Bennet lives on a small moon in the Londinium lunar system with her parents and 4 sisters, content to dream about flying a ship rather than marrying an eligible man. But when the handsome Mr. Bingley docks the Netherfield Star Cruiser on the neighboring estate, the Bennet sisters are thrust into the asteroid field that is the system's wider society, and Elizabeth's dreams are knocked off course. Soon, Elizabeth is drawn into the orbit of Mr. Bingley's friend, the proud Fitzwilliam Darcy, a man she's determined to dislike. Despite his 10,000 aurum per year, I think that's money. Will the Bennet sisters be able to navigate the perils of love and space? Will Elizabeth be able to circumvent the collision course she's on with the formidable Mr. Darcy? Featuring numerous 4-color designs and illustrations that brilliantly transport Jane Austen's world into a fantastical space setting, Pride and Prejudice in Space is an exuberant twist on a treasured classic. Sorry, I don't usually read that last part, but I got sidetracked. So we talked about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and Pride and Prejudice in Space, and I want to take a break from Jane Austen for a moment to mention something that I am going to do moving forward, and that is people like to recreate Jane Austen's novels. People also like to recreate Shakespeare because all of them are timeless tales of, unlike what Bitches and Bonnets said, people aren't just figuring it out. People have figured it out for a long time because the stories, the truths told in Austen, in Shakespeare, in Bronte, are timeless. They just take on whatever, quirks of the time that they're in. I fucked that sentence up, but whatever. Anywho. So I do have a project on Shakespeare coming up in the next couple of months, and it is about retelling of Shakespeare's tales. So, don't forget that, because I'm going to mention something later that goes with that. A couple more books to talk about. Jane Austen. These are not Jane Austen books. These are like homages. The first one is Kathleen A. Flynn's The Jane Austen Project. What would you give up so she could live? I don't know. Who are we talking about here? England. Okay, sorry. 2 researchers from the future are sent back in time to meet Jane Austen and recover a suspected unpublished novel. England, 1815. 2 travelers, Rachel Katzman and Liam Finucane, arrive in a field disheveled and weighed down with hidden money. They are not what they seem, but colleagues from a technologically advanced future posing as wealthy West Indies planners, a doctor and his spinster sister. While Rachel and Liam aren't the first team from the future to go back, their mission is by far the most audacious. Meet, befriend, and steal from Jane Austen herself. Carefully selected and rigorously trained by the Royal Institute for Special Topics in Physics, disaster relief Dr. Rachel and actor-turned-scholar Liam have little in common besides the extraordinary circumstances they find themselves in. Circumstances that call for Rachel to stifle her independent nature and let Liam take the lead as they infiltrate Austen's circle via her favorite brother, Henry. But diagnosing Jane's fatal illness and obtaining an unpublished novel hinted at in her letters pose enough of a challenge without the continuous convolutions of living a lie. While her friendship with Jane deepens and her relationship with Liam grows complicated, Rachel fights to reconcile her true self with the constrictions of 19th-century society. As their portal to the future prepares to close, Rachel and Liam struggle with their directive to leave history intact and exactly as they found it, however heartbreaking that may prove. How do they leave it exactly as they found it if they have to steal from her? That's thing one. Question. But the other thing is, I don't believe they know what killed Jane Austen. I could be wrong. If I am, please let me know down in the comments. I caught myself Googling it the other day, and I didn't find what killed her, but she died at... I wrote it down in here. I was figuring it out. She was 42 years old. So she was born in 1775, died in 1817. Still is really so young to pass away. Final book that I will talk about, which may end up being a palate cleanser at some point. That is the Jane Austen Society, a novel by Natalie Jenner. In this, just after the Second World War, in the small English village of Chawton, an unusual but like-minded group of people band together to attempt something remarkable. In the early 1800s, Chawton was the final home of Jane Austen, one of England's finest novelists. By the 1940s, little remains of her legacy, but a few distant relatives and their diminishing estate, including the cottage where Austen wrote or revised her famous books. With the winds of change blowing through the country in the post-war days, and the cottage's future now in the hands of fate, a group of disparate individuals fight to preserve both Austen's home and her legacy for the world. These people, a farmer, a young war widow, the village doctor, an employee of Sotheby's, a Hollywood star, a local solicitor, the anticipated heiress to this estate, and a precocious house girl, could not be more different, and yet they are united in their love for the works and words of Austen. As each of them endures their own quiet struggle with loss and the trauma of war and other tragedies, they find solace, connection, and hope in rallying together to create the Jane Austen Society. I love books about the world wars, and especially books about post-war World War II. So I'm really going to try to bump this. I say this all the time. I'm going to try to bump it up. But I'm going to try to bump it up. And who cares if it really happens? I'm having a good time. So, like, the thing that I forgot to say at the beginning of this video is that, yes, I'm on my feminist shit now, and my focus moving forward throughout the rest of this year and into the next year is going to be on books by and about females and people in marginalized communities. William Shakespeare is no exception, even though allegedly he's a man. I will go into more detail when I get to this project, but there is a very feminist way of looking at Shakespeare's work. Like I said, I had an excellent teacher in college who really made Shakespeare come alive for me, and I look forward to revisiting his works and people's interpretations of them. That is it for me. I have got to do chores the rest of today and get some more reading done. I've got to get 25 pages in on the Madwoman in the Attic, and I'd like to at least hit the halfway mark on Jane Eyre. This may or may not happen. This isn't the copy I'm reading. This is an old Walmart 2 for $1 copy. But my current copy is much prettier. Anywho, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good reading week. I am. Jane Eyre is turning out okay for me. I just finished a bad book that somehow reignited my passion for reading and helped me get out of this rut that I've been in October. So I'm excited. I've got a standalone video. One of the things that I also am going to try to do moving forward is I've used Wednesdays a lot for book hauls. I'm going to try to do more book reviews, maybe not one a week, maybe one a month, but book reviews or book examinations or thoughts on books, something like that. I'm going to try to do more of that where I talk about a specific novel that I've read or novels that I've read in more detail than I get into in my weekend books. I have not been able to do that lately because, as you know, I've been having a meh month, or at least October was a meh month. But I am going to do a standalone on the Janet Daly novel that I just read, in conjunction with some other books that I intend to read and talk about. So it may not be next week, it might be Thanksgiving or the week after. Anywho, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Jane Austen or any feminist fiction that you've read. If you've read any of these books that I've talked about, please let me know down in the comment section. I appreciate you. I try to respond to every comment. If not within the first hour, at least within the first 24 to 48 hours. I check my YouTube a couple times a day, but sometimes things get past me and sometimes things get busy. But I do have it, it keeps the comments up there till I reply, and I do try to reply to everyone. Thank you for all new subscribers and old subscribers. It's good to have you here. I hope you stick around for this journey. Happy reading!